Jimmy Brand, 6'3" and a natural heavyweight, was respected and well known in underworld circles as one of the hardest men in London. A natural fighter who was extremely strong and well liked, and he was one of the few men that was on par with the likes of Lenny McLean, Roy Shaw and Bill the Bomb. A few years younger than Lenny, Brand was a minder for the infamous Freddy Foreman in Marbella during the 80s, when the chaps were on the run and were enjoying the sunny shores of Spain to eat, drink, make deals and keep one step away from the English authorities. He would go on to be a big mover in the underworld, worth millions, and has been alleged to me by several people that he and the powerhouse Lenny McLean clashed at one point.
I lose weight because I know the less weight you carry, the faster you are. But these new breed of doormen, they're pumping steroids into them and they're getting larger. And if they can get 23, 24 stone, they're over the moon.
South London has produced some of the most notorious and dangerous men in Britain's underworld history, the likes of the Richardson brothers, the Haywards, Brindles, Mad Frankie Fraser, Roffs, Dailies, Arifs, Tippets, Foremans, Olifes, Frenches, the list goes on. It was a lethal area of London, with many incidents of infighting between families and factions, including a violent war between the Carters, Brindles and Frasers in the 60s that was long running and very savage. Shootings, stabbings and attacks on innocent family members and was splashed across the newspapers. Then there was the Daly and Brindle feud in the 90s, which left at least 3 dead, including London's most fierce underworld enforcer, Jimmy Moody. It was particularly bloody and crossed borders with Ireland, as a crime boss from the Emerald Isle took sides with the Dailies and supplied a hitman to try and help them win the war. One South London feud that is less spoken about, but was equally as deadly, was the murder of Big Peter Hennessy, who was stabbed to death at a charity boxing match. Allegedly, Hennessy and Paddy Onions, 2 serious South London faces, got into an argument and someone grabbed a knife and plunged it into Hennessy. Paddy and Jimmy Coleman were taken in for the murder, but were cleared in court. This caused a huge split in the South London criminal fraternity, with faces taken each side, as the Hennessy brothers wanted revenge, and those loyal to Coleman and Paddy struck first, shooting one of Peter's brothers. Freddy Foreman was in America at this time and could do little to stem the bad blood between both sides, but took Hennessy's brother, who had been shot, over to America to recuperate and try and talk sense into him. He managed to persuade Hennessy to leave Ronnie Olive, his close friend, out of the feud, but sometime later, Paddy Onions was shot dead outside of a restaurant. Lenny McLean would never claim to be comparable to the professional criminals mentioned previously. He was a fighter and a bouncer, and was a man to call on for serious muscle. He had never been a shooter or a killer. His weapons were his hands. Jimmy Brand, on the other hand, was far more serious, involved in high-level criminal activity, and was later sentenced to 14 years in prison for shooting a lad who had been upsetting his daughter. There are several rumours that have been put up by various subs that say they are in the know that Jimmy Brand battered Lenny twice and ran him out of a club, the same club that Tamer Hassan had an interest in later, with the backing of the Arifs. Of course, I rarely take any suggestions seriously without fact-checking, but on this occasion it did catch my attention, as I have heard whispers of Jimmy Brand being the only man Lenny feared, previously some years ago. I went to a guy I've been friendly with for a long time, who at one point did business with Jimmy Brand, and is the son of South London legend Jimmy Tippett Sr. I also went to another London face who has a microscopic memory and would know of any clashes the pair had. After discussing with both men, they confirmed Jimmy Brand was a seriously tough man, and that they had heard gossip at one point of the 2 hard men, Lenny and Jimmy, having a fallout in the 80s. Lenny used to work at the Camden Palace, and outside there was a little cafe where Lenny and his doorman would often get breakfast after a long night shift. The story I'm told is that there was a disagreement between Lenny and Jimmy in the cafe, I'm not sure whether Jimmy was working the door with Len that night or he was just in the cafe at the same time. I'm told infamous doorman John Madden, another top guy from London, was also present. I'm not sure the reason behind it, but an explosive row took place and Brand flipped the table and the pair nearly came to blows, with Madden managing to calm the situation down. This is the only incident that I can find, and no one I have spoken to can remember any actual fight between the two taking place. Although with all hardmen from different areas, there's going to be speculation on who could beat who, and this maybe is where the rumour stems from. Jimmy Brand followed a different path to Lenny, made a lot of money living in a huge house at one point, and certainly knew how to enjoy himself. This picture shows him out with his pals, including champion boxer Gary Mason, a man from South London who would have rendered most hardmen unconscious in a street fight. Mason tragically died when knocked off his bike in London, and Jimmy Brand also lost his life whilst serving the 14 years for the shooting. So that was a video on Jimmy the Gent Brand, South East London, one of the hardest guys coming from over south. Minded for Freddy Foremans back in the day. I was over in Spain. I think he did some time in prison over there, but ended up coming back to London, earning a lot of money. He was quite big in quite a few different things, I'm told, and made a lot of dough, but was very dangerous as well. Could right have it on the cobbles, and wasn't shy of using shooters, etc., if needs be. Unfortunately, later on in life, he was trying to right a wrong, and he fired a shot in the air and then shot a lad in the leg. I think he was 17, 18. He was messing his daughter around. Went to jail for 14 years. He got done for a few different charges, but the biggest one was a 14-year, which is he was in the middle of when he passed away from a heart attack, unfortunately. Lenny McLean, obviously, we know. What can you say about Lenny? Top fighter, street fighter, a legend. But I found it quite interesting because I've heard over the years about this Jimmy Brand. Never knew him or met him myself, but was told by people in the know from that area, South London, that he was a real handful and hard man. And him and Lenny had clashed one night or one morning outside a cafe. Then I've had a couple of subs comment that apparently Jimmy beat him and that Lenny was fearful of him, etc. But I can't find anyone else who I know in that life who can clarify that. And I was told by one person who's quite a serious guy, or was back in the day, that if it had happened, if Lenny had been battered by Jimmy, he would know about it. Everyone would have known. It would have been gone through London. You know, because Lenny was king of the bouncers, one of the hardest men in London. People would know and find out about it. So I don't think that happened, but I could be wrong. I don't know for a fact. If someone knows and's got the facts, and there's more than a few people who can clarify it, then I'm happy to relook at it. But I think it was just a bust up, an argument, and they were sort of separated. That's what I gather. But I thought it was interesting because I've never heard any other videos about him on YouTube, so I thought I'd bring you that one. Next up, I've got Michael Kelly and Russian Andre, their documentary, and it is explosive. I think I'm going to separate it into 3 episodes of trilogy with 3 big events, because there's so much to cover, and hopefully Michael will definitely bring a book out at some point. Not definitely, but I hope he does. He has talked about it, and I'm happy to give him as much help as he needs on that, if he needs it, because it is a really interesting story, because most people only talk about the Essex boys from that era, but a lot more stuff was going on. Okay, so that's it for today. Any suggestions, please put them in the comments. I'm happy to have a look and research things and add it to the list. Okay, take care.